How much should you take out of your portfolio when you retire? All right, this is my man Kenny had sent this to me, so kudos to you, Kenny. This is a great article by Paul Merriman, of all people. I'm a fan of Paul. I completely disagree with his assumption that small cap value will outperform. It might. I don't know. I just think if you look historically, you take away the 4 to 5 year time frame from 1978 to 1982, or is it 1976 to 1982? Small cap value did just as well as everything else after that. But those 4 to 5 years are what made the small cap value tilt worthwhile. Take away those 4 to 5 years, it's all the same. But anyway, be it doesn't matter. It's fine. I get no qualm with that. Let's read this. This a good article. Dateline about almost 2 years ago now. Man, April 7th, 2020. I mean, that was a whole different world. It was a whole different world. Think back to where we were April 7th, 2020. If you would have sat there and say, we're going to have quarantine camps to throw people in, that you were not going to be able to cross the borders unless you're an illegal immigrant, that you're going to have to wear a mask or go to jail, that can be mandated this Trump jabba, or else you'll go to jail, essentially, that... I mean, all these, that they would cancel. It's insane, man. What people, I cannot believe it. Remember 14 days, and yet somehow they still say we're following the science. It's insane how quickly the status, it's crazy how fast it happens. And sadly, a lot of people on the righteous side of things, they don't know how evil works. Evil is so flippin' fast. And you're sitting there thinking, they would never do that. They'd never do that. And I'll never forget, I just remember watching that kid or guy in San Diego on a little ski boat thing, whatever, those things where you're standing on it, like a surfboard that you're standing on, and the cops chasing him down. And I'll never forget that. I said, this has to be the end of this. No way can Americans put up with this. And yet they did. And they arrested a guy for being on his own in San Diego on the water. And people were okay with that. They said, well, as long as we beat this disease. And yet here we are 2 years later, we haven't beaten the disease. Not even close. Because you can't. Sad. It's really sad. But it's more than sad. It's reality. Evil moves fast. And that's why, to this day, I'm so disappointed what I thought were nominally Republican and conservatives who went along for it. So we don't know, so better be safe than sorry. I'm like, no, not when it comes to your freedom. It's never better be safe than sorry when it comes to your freedom. When you're dealing with tyranny. And all these people said, well, let's just see how this shakes out because the ICL, I'm like, what has the ICL ever been right? Imperial College of London. When have they ever been right? Never. Why are you listening to these people? It's like Michael Mann. When have they ever been right? Never. Why are you still listening to these people? All right, enough of that. Grappling with a big trade-off. So we're going to skip the thing here. We're just going to go down. I want to show you his charts. And he is using I think he's using a 50-50 portfolio. Yeah, he's using, we got $1 million invested. We're going to have 50% in S&P 500 and 50% in short intermediate government bonds. All right, that's fine. And that's the basis of the 4% rule, by the way. We're starting in 1950. We're 30,000. We're going to sort of take 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, adjust with actual inflation each and every year. All right, so withdrawal 1970. Again, we're starting with $1 million, 50 stocks, 50 short and intermediate government bonds, 10-year treasuries, essentially, in S&P 500. We're taking real inflation numbers out. All right, so basically what he says is after the 10 years from 1970, the day of my birth, to 1980, if you would have taken 3% a year out, you've withdrawn $400,000 and you've been left with $1.3 million. And you'd still be pulling $61,000 a year from your portfolio. So we take our trusty calculator down here, 61 divided by 1.33, that is a 4.5% distribution rate right there. So in 1981, you're pulling 4.5% a year out. Not too shabby. That's in the 1970s. One of the worst times to invest, by the way. Now, if you had pulled 4% a year out, you have pulled out $1,533,000. You've been left with 1.15 million, and you're taking 81,000 a year out there. 5%. All right, you're left with $1 million, a little bit less than $1 million, and now you're taking 101,000 out. It's gonna be tough to make those meet because we're only 10 years in, and we're taking 101 divided by 959. We're taking a 10% distribution rate, and that's gonna be tough. And of course, if you took 6% a year out, you're basically your boat is sunk. All right. If you're retiring, so Paul says, if your retirement lasts only 10 years, you'd be fine taking the 6% out. After that, you're in a world of hurt. I agree, but I disagree as well. At the start of 1980, according to this plan, you would, let's see, so we're going to the next 10 years right here. You ran out of money. If you were taking 6% a year out, you ran out of money, I think he said in 1987. Yeah, right there. If you did not adjust your spending, you ran out of money in 1987. That's still 17 years. 17 years in the most highest inflation times we've ever had. All right, that's the worst case scenario. 17 years in the highest inflation time we ever had, and you still lasted 17 years. That ain't too shabby if you ask me. 5%, you're left with 849 after, again, that's after 20 years now. And you got 167,000 is what you got to be pulling out when you adjust for inflation. So we say 167, divide that by 849, and that's a 19.6% distribution rate. But again, we're already 20 years in retirement. So you can't look at the 4% rule at this point because you only need less than 10 years before you're dead, most likely. 3 and 4%, you're sitting fine. 3%, you have 3.57 million, and you're only spending 100,000. 4%, you got 2.2 million, and you're only spending 133. So both those work just fine. All right, so the point being, though, is at the 6% you ran out of money, the 5% you will run out of money. But again, we're 20 years into retirement right now. So even if you had no more interest and we only had 850, would you say 850, and we're taking, for just simplicity, 170 out each year, we got another 5 years? Yeah, another 5 years. So we'd have 25 years of retirement at 5%. And we'd be run out of money after year 25. That's not so bad, man. That's given the highest inflation we've ever seen from the 1970s. I'll take that. 100%. All right, so let's see what else he says. The table does not show us, but the end of, all right, let's see. The trade-off, of course, in your early years of retirement, when you're presumably more healthy and able to travel, the 3% left you with less money to spend. Exactly. By the time you loosen the purse strings, you had more money, but perhaps less ability to take advantage, 100%. The bad news is no way to avoid the trade-off between spending now and spending later. And in most cases, you cannot advance how long you live. Fortunately, there are worthwhile options. The best option is, assuming you saved enough money, is to abandon the idea that your withdrawals will have to go up with inflation, regardless of how well or poorly your investments are doing. Could not agree with that more. Abandon the idea that your withdrawals have to go up with inflation. 100%. Now, it could, but maybe it goes up with inflation the first 10 years, and maybe after that you level off. Maybe it drops. I mean, just firecalc.com. We've talked about this 1,000 times a Sunday. Where is any evidence that your spending goes up with inflation each and every year? I want to know where it is. Where is it at all? Even before you're retired. My spending doesn't go up with inflation each and every year. My spending goes up with our desires, our needs. If we feel like hell, we just fought COVID off, man. We were thinking about going to Hershey like we usually do for Christmas, but we're feeling like crap. So we said, no, we're not doing that. So where's this idea that our spending goes up with inflation every year? When things are not going well, tighten your belt, for heaven's sake. This is called the variable distribution plan. It can give you the option to safely bump up your allocation stocks. I don't know about that, but I'm just saying when things don't go smoothly, tighten your belt. All right. I completely agree. So the point being, or how about this? I would take 6% a year, first year off, first 10 years, 5% the next 10 years, and 4% the next 10 years. Why not do that? Reverse RMDs. I got to do this book. Got to do this book on reverse RMDs because it really, you start high and you progressively go down, knowing full well that, hey, I'm going to get older. I'm not going to go see the Redskins. Oh, did I say Redskins? I'm not going to go see the Washington football team anymore. I'm not going to go, fly to see Aunt freaking Vinny in Italy and all that stuff. Aunt Vinny, cousin Vinny in Italy and stuff. I just, so you spend more on the front end, knowing full well that you're gonna have to maybe give yourself a pay cut in the back end. Well, whoop-de-doo. What's wrong with that? Anyway, those are your thoughts. We'll see ya.